I wonder how many people I've looked at all my life and never seen. Maybe everybody in the whole damn world is scared of each other. All great and precious things are lonely. And now that you don't have to be perfect, you can be good. I believe a strong woman may be stronger than a man, particularly if she happens to have love in her heart. I guess a loving woman is indestructible. There ain't no sin, and there ain't no virtue. There's just stuff people do. It's so much darker when a light goes out than it would have been if it had never shone. I got you to look after me, and you got me to look after you, and that's why. But the Hebrew word, the word temshel, thou mayest, that gives a choice. It might be the most important word in the world. That says the way is open. That throws it right back on a man. For if thou mayest, it is also true that thou mayest not. All war is a symptom of man's failure as a thinking animal. What good is the warmth of summer without the cold of winter to give it sweetness? And the little screaming fact that sounds through all history, repression works only to strengthen and knit the repressed. Ideas are like rabbits. You get a couple and learn how to handle them, and pretty soon you have a dozen. I was born lost and take no pleasure in being found. Try to understand men. If you understand each other, you will be kind to each other, knowing a man well never leads to hate and almost always leads to love. There's more beauty in truth, even if it is dreadful beauty. Do you take pride in your hurt? Does it make you seem large and tragic? Well, think about it. Maybe you're playing a part on a great stage with only yourself as audience. I guess there are never enough books. To be alive at all is to have scars. My imagination will get me a passport to hell one day. When two people meet, each one is changed by the other, so you've got two new people. Anything that just costs money is cheap. As happens sometimes, a moment settled and hovered, and remained for much more than a moment, and sound stopped, and movement stopped for much, much more than a moment. It seems to me that if you or I must choose between two courses of thought or action, we should remember our dying, and try so to live that our death brings no pleasure to the world. Sometimes a man wants to be stupid. If it lets him do a thing his cleverness forbids. A sad soul can kill you quicker, far quicker than a germ. No man really knows about other human beings. The best he can do is to suppose that they are like himself. A kind of light spread out from her, and everything changed color, and the world opened out, and the day was good to awaken to, and there were no limits to anything, and the people of the world were good and handsome, and I was not afraid any more. People like you to be something, preferably what they are. A man so painfully in love is capable of self-torture beyond belief. It would be absurd if we did not understand both angels and devils, since we invented them. Power does not corrupt. Fear corrupts, perhaps the fear of a loss of power. If you're in trouble, or hurt or need, go to the poor people. They're the only ones that'll help, the only ones. But I have a new love for that glittering instrument, the human soul. It is a lovely and unique thing in the universe. It is always attacked and never destroyed, because thou mayest. A guy needs somebody to be near him. A guy goes nuts if he ain't got nobody. Don't make no difference who the guy is, long's he's with you. I tell ya, a guy gets too lonely and he gets sick. I shall revenge myself in the cruelest way you can imagine. I shall forget it. It was her habit to build up laughter out of inadequate materials. Don't worry about losing. If it is right, it happens. The main thing is not to hurry. Nothing good gets away. An unbelieved truth can hurt a man much more than a lie. It takes great courage to back truth unacceptable to our times. There's a punishment for it, and it's usually crucifixion. When a man says he does not want to speak of something, he usually means he can think of nothing else. Can you honestly love a dishonest thing? People who are most afraid of their dreams convince themselves they don't dream at all. A man without words is a man without thought. Perhaps the less we have, the more we are required to brag. It's awful not to be loved. It's the worst thing in the world. It makes you mean and violent and cruel. It's a hard thing to leave any deeply routine life, even if you hate it. You've seen the sun flatten and take strange shapes just before it sinks in the ocean. Do you have to tell yourself every time that it's an illusion caused by atmospheric dust and light distorted by the sea? Or do you simply enjoy the beauty of it? Perhaps it takes courage to raise children. You know how advice is. You only want it if it agrees with what you want to do. Anyways, how can we live without our lives? How will we know it's us without our past? And in the eyes of the people there is the failure, and in the eyes of the hungry there is a growing wrath. In the souls of the people the grapes of wrath are filling and growing heavy for the vintage. The quality of owning freezes you forever in I and cuts you off forever from the we. I wonder why progress looks so much like destruction. I am happy to report that in the war between reality and romance, reality is not the stronger. You're bound to get ideas if you go thinking about stuff. I don't need no sense to be a nice fella. Seems to me sometimes it just works the other way around. Take a real smart guy, and he ain't hardly ever a nice fella. No one who is young is ever going to be old. Men really do need sea monsters in their personal oceans. We value virtue, but do not discuss it. The honest bookkeeper, the faithful wife, the earnest scholar get little of our attention compared to the embezzler, the tramp, the cheat. Don't make everyone know about your sadness. You can only understand people if you feel them in yourself. And this I believe, that the free, exploring mind of the individual human is the most valuable thing in the world. and this I would fight for, the freedom of the mind to take any direction it wishes and direct it. A journey is like marriage. The certain way to be wrong is to think you control it. Death was a friend, and sleep was death's brother. His ear heard more than what was said to him, and his slow speech had overtones not of thought, but of understanding beyond thought. I guess I'm trying to say, grab anything that goes by. It may not come around again. Maybe love makes you suspicious and doubting. Is it true that when you love a woman you are never sure of her because you aren't sure of yourself? Remember that the most beautiful things in the world are the most useless. Peacocks and lilies, for instance. Up ahead there's 1,000 lives we might live, but when it comes it'll only be one. For it is said that humans are never satisfied, that you give them one thing and they want something more, and this is said in disparagement, whereas it is one of the greatest talents the species has and one that has made it superior to animals that are satisfied with what they have. Trouble with mice is you always kill them. Muscles aching to work, minds aching to create. This is man. He never fell, never slipped back, never flew. Intention, good or bad, is not enough. Man has a choice, and it's a choice that makes him a man. It's all fine to say, time will heal everything. This too shall pass away. People will forget, and things like that when you are not involved. But when you are, there is no passage of time. People do not forget, and you are in the middle of something that does not change. Just like heaven, everybody wants a little piece of land. I read plenty of books out here. Nobody never gets to heaven, and nobody gets no land. It's just in their head. They're all the time talking about it, but it's just in their head. If he needs 1,000,000 acres to make him feel rich, seems to me he needs it 'cause he feels awful poor inside himself. And if he's poor in himself, there ain't no 1,000,000 acres gonna make him feel rich. And maybe he's disappointed that nothing he can do make him feel rich.